Hello, everyone. My name is Cullen King, and today I'll be giving a talk on behalf of the Slate Belt Heritage Center titled Our Past, Our Future, Why Our History Should Provide Hope Today. Like many of you viewing, I am also from the Slate Belt area. I grew up and graduated from Penn Argyl High School. And this past summer, I had the fortunate opportunity to work through the University of Michigan to create an internship opportunity at the Slate Belt Heritage Center. I want to start by thanking everyone at the Slate Belt Heritage Center for not only allowing me to create this position, but for allowing me to continue on in this position as a global pandemic created multiple unforeseen issues that we were able to overcome with a commitment to my education. So I want to just thank everyone at the Slate Belt Heritage Center before I begin this talk. I also want to get into a little bit of how this talk came into being. The Slate Belt Heritage Center had reached out to me and asked me to give a talk about my experience there this summer working an internship. And I was delighted, of course, but also unsure about what I could talk about to meet the moment, because like most of you, I entered 2021 the same way I left 2020. Still curious about the past, but deeply unsure about the present times that we're living in and anxiety-ridden about the future. And I wanted to give a talk that could give something back to the community that gave me so much through this internship experience. And I realized really the only thing I can give you based off of my internship experience is the hope that I found in the pages of our history. A hope that I think can provide us with the tenacity to go forward and meet the everyday struggles that we are constantly being hit with. So before I begin to talk about everything that I learned in that experience and what I did at the Slate Belt Heritage Center, I want to start with the overarching main idea that I want to bring to the forefront of everything that I talk about today. And that is this: whatever we are experiencing presently has been felt, has been lived through, and has been overcome by those who came before us. And this may sound like a grandiose overstatement or a naive belief in the history of who we are, but I think it's true. And I think it's important that we not only realize that this is true, but that we remind ourselves of it, because sometimes I think we can forget. We think that we're an anomaly, that what we're experiencing today hasn't been experienced, or that what we're experiencing today hasn't been overcome. And it has. And I think that that can provide not only a blueprint for going forward, but the hope which will allow us to push ourselves onward this year. Okay. Another way to put it, way more poetically than I could, is James Baldwin. As he put it in A Stranger in the Village, he said, "People are trapped in history and history is trapped in them." Meaning the people who came before us formed who we are today, just as we are going to form those who come after us, right? So not only do we have a responsibility to learn about our history, we have a responsibility to continue on that heritage so that those who come after us are also positioned to meet the challenges of their time, okay? And so that's what this talk is really about. But before I go any deeper into this overarching theme, I want to take a step back and talk a little bit about what I actually did this summer, right? So my internship experience was really broken into two parts. The first part was learning as much as I could about the history of the Slate Belt. And I did that through a variety of ways, whether that was reading the wonderful works which are produced and housed at the Slate Belt Heritage Center, whether that was talking to the volunteers and board members at the Slate Belt Heritage Center, whether that was looking at primary resources or sitting in on meetings or looking through obscure internet articles, whatever it was, I tried to take as many abilities and experiences as I could get to learn as much as I could about the people. And that was really a large portion of my internship experience. The other part was creating a project, an online tour. A tour that would mimic the tour that you would receive if you were actually in the physical brick and mortar building at the Slate Belt Heritage Center. Okay, so just bear with me a second as I pull that up. So this tour is actually hosted on a website called Scalar, which was produced by USC and housed by USC. And it's committed to providing a free online resource for small institutions such as the Slate Belt Heritage Center, and also for independent historians and artists and journalists who want to tell their stories through a visual medium. And I wanted to tell our story through a visual medium. Now, before I dig a little bit into this website and talk about what I did, I do want to say that I was deeply indebted to Mark, who provided me with one of the best tours I've ever had of a museum. And Mark was gracious enough to allow me to take pictures of the various rooms and to provide me with some of his own audio notes for when he gives tours, which have been incorporated into this website. So I really want to thank him, and I'm indebted to him greatly for this project even coming to an end. So thank you so much, Mark. Okay, so if you look over here to your left, you're going to see a variety of tabs. Each one of those tabs corresponds to one of the rooms in the Heritage Center. So the introduction would be given as you walk in. And then you will go through a series of rooms which actually have physical rooms in the Heritage Center. That is the council chamber, the textile room, the slate room, the various rooms dedicated to nationalities, the home front room, the Flicksville room, the fire museum. All of those are actual physical spaces within the building, and I created a page for them. So that way you could weave your way through the tour as if you were actually there. And basically what I did is I took all the information that I learned over the course of my internship experience, and I tried to fit as much of it in as I could to this source so that other people who may not feel like they could come to this center right now would have some way to learn about their past. Okay, so that was really my big project. And basically what happened is I did all the research, I created this project, and then I didn't think about it for a few months. And so when I was preparing for this talk, I had to figure out, well, where did my hope come from? I had this general sense of hope. I had this general idea of who we are, but I had to find out where was that idea formed? And really it was formed within the rooms of the Heritage Center. It was formed while Mark was giving me that tour. It was formed while I created this website. And those hopes came from a lot of different places, but I want to focus on two for this talk. The first one is the Homefront magazine, which was created during World War II to provide a lifeline of community between our local Slate Belt members who were serving overseas and the families of those members and the general community that was at home. And the other one is the slate and textile rooms, which when you put those two together in the museum, tell the history of economic transformation in this local area, which I don't think is told enough and quite frankly is remarkable. So let's go back into the rooms and let's look at the home front room. Okay, so as you click on the room, you'll get some pictures that I took when I was with Mark of some things that I thought would be of interest, right? Here are some letters that were written to the editors of the magazine. Here's a large picture of one of the fronts of the magazines. Here's a plaque which reads America's Only, right? And that's true, right? This is the only example of a local community creating its own magazine, coming together and creating a magazine that produces information for both those on the home front and those serving to protect their country. Okay. And why did I find hope in this? I found hope in this because, one, it's a community effort, right? To battle a problem. The problem being how to provide communication in a time when it wasn't readily available, right? In the 1940s. And how did they do that was that they came together, right? And they created this magazine. Anyone could write into it. And then they would publish those things. And then they would send it overseas to the GIs. They'd be circulated around here. And it was basically like a meeting place, right? A public meeting place for all the information of people all over the world. And it's truly an amazing accomplishment that this was able to get done. And the people who sacrificed their time to produce this are heroes, right? They're people who provided hope and a sense of connection to their homeland for the GIs who were serving, and who provided safety and security in the knowledge that those people were okay for those on the home front. So this is just one example of a unique and inspiring way that the people of the Slate Belt have come together to encounter a problem. Oops, sorry. The second thing that I found a lot of hope in was this. Slate, right, is synonymous with who we are, but I don't think many people realize that the slate industry actually dominated our local economy for a relatively short period of time in terms of how long people have lived here, right? Especially so if you're including, right, indigenous people and other people. So really slate has about 150-year span from, if we're being gracious, from the start of the 19th century to the mid 20th century, right? But there's really less than 100 years where it's actually dominant. And that's a story that doesn't get told enough, because if that's true, then we have to look at the other ways, right, that people who came here transformed the economy so that it was viable for people to stay here, okay? Especially in an industrial world. And the way that they did that was through the creation of the textile industry. And that was something that I did not know too much about before I came here, but that I learned a lot about through my time at the Slate Belt Heritage Center. So slate industry, while it's synonymous with who we are, is actually not the full story. The full story is, and I want to, before I get into it, read this excerpt that I included on the Textile Room page right here at the top, from A History of the Slate Belt Textile Industry, which was another wonderful work created by the Slate Belt Heritage Center. And that quote reads, "The factory life in the 20th century created prosperity as it introduced the concept of the two-paycheck family with the promise of a union pension. The salaries earned by the machine operators, mostly women, enriched life at home and provided educational opportunities for the children of immigrants. The American dream was cut, sewn, pressed, and boxed by a proud and talented workforce." Okay? And this quote does a lot for explaining why this is such a powerful historical event, right? This transition from the slate industry to the textile industry. It reveals that not only did the people of the Slate Belt have to encounter this economic difficulty, but they did it in a way that brought up everybody, right? So now women are able to enter the workforce. We have homes with 2 paychecks, right? That's massive, because that allows the education of the children of those families to be increased, right? So the industry change so much in so of itself is already incredible. The ability to take people who came here explicitly to work in the quarries and then making it so that textile is going to be the new industry, right, is amazing in and of itself. But then to not only make that transition, but to do it in such a way as to better everybody's existence is truly remarkable. And it's a story that, like I said, is not really told, right? And so I just wanted to highlight that as another area of hope, right? The people of the Slate Belt have dealt with difficulty and they've overcome it in just inspiring and, humbling ways. Bear with me as I come back here. So that was really the culmination of what I did at the Slate Belt Heritage Center this past summer, as I said. And I created that website so that way people who couldn't be at the physical center could still have access to our rich heritage. Okay. But this still leaves us with the question of, so what? Who cares? Who cares that the people who came before us had to overcome adversity, right? And I think that we need to care. And I think the reason we need to care is this. This quote comes from the 125th anniversary book, page 3. Reads, "Each of our ethnic groups came and made Bangor their home for slightly different reasons. Religious freedom, improved working conditions and financial opportunity, and relief from the disorder of the old country. Woven deep into the fabric, as I said, of who we are, is a commitment to overcoming adversity. That's the whole reason we came here, and that's the whole reason we were able to stay here, right? We came here to overcome adversity. While we were here, as I just outlined while I was talking about my Scalar website, we overcame adversity in different ways, right? The Homefront magazine, this transition from slate to textile, right? We are people who have been doing that, remaking and making ourselves again and again as history progressed forward. And it's something we're going to continue to do. Okay? Right? So what have we endured on a broad level? Major historical events is one way that people endure history, right? There's 2 ways. The first way is major historical events. The second way, right, is day-to-day realities. So major historical events in which we encountered in the past are the Revolutionary War and the Civil War, right? And the 2 world wars, and you could put in Korea and Vietnam. I didn't here, but you could. We've overcome, the Great Depression and 100, other economic downturns that we're not going to talk about here because of time, right? Spanish influenza and various other diseases that came before, right, vaccinations and modern medicine. And then the tumultuous formation of our democratic government, right? Including the civil rights movement. So we've endured major historical events like COVID-19 in the past as a community. And the Homefront magazine is an example of how we actually overcame a major historical event, right? And like I said, there's the day-to-day realities, right? Immigration and American assimilation, dangerous and thankless working conditions, cultural and religious transformations, and racial divisions and animosity, right? Some of those day-to-day realities are still happening today, right? These racial divisions and animosities, which create anxiety and uncertainty, right? Today, we also have to deal with self-isolation, right? We have to deal with uncertainties about the virus and getting sick, right? Those are all historical realities that people in the past had to deal with that we're dealing with today. So like those who came before us, we are also enduring major historical events and the day-to-day realities that come along with those events, okay? That's important to realize, right? We are not diverging from history. We are following in the path of history. And those who came before us were able to overcome those bumps, right? So I want to wrap up on this thought. Our history, much like our present time, is messy, dangerous, and full of uncertainty. Like those who came before us, we must continue onward with thankfulness for what we have, hunger for what we want, and determination to create the world we wish to see. If not for ourselves, if for the fact that it's what those who came before us did. I hope that me talking a little bit about my internship opportunity gave you insight into how I found hope learning about our past and how you can find hope learning about our past too, right? The Homefront magazine in this transition from Slate to Textile is not the only place that there's hope in our past. It's where I found hope. And I encourage you, if you are interested in finding hope in our past, to dig deeper into what you find interesting, because there's hope in all the different facets of the Slate Belt and its formation. Okay. As I end here, I want to again extend my thanks to the Slate Belt Heritage Center, especially to Melissa, who worked one-on-one with me to provide me the resources I needed to make all this possible, and to the entire board for welcoming me and allowing me to sit in on projects and meetings and to talk to them if I had questions. I deeply appreciate that. I appreciate everybody who came in today to watch and listen to this talk, and I hope, see what I did there? I hope that you leave here feeling a little bit better about what we are going to be facing in 2021, knowing that it's the same either major historical events or day-to-day realities that those who came before us faced. Thank you guys so much. I hope everyone has a safe and healthy year. Thank you again.